April is Financial Literacy Month here on Scripps News, and this week we have new data showing Americans are saving less. An analysis of government stats by Wells Fargo shows the personal savings rate dropped to 3.6% in February. That's the lowest level in more than a year. It's part of a long-term trend that can boost consumer spending, but also leave people vulnerable in tough financial times. So we want to bring in Sam Burns, founder and chief strategist at Mill Street Research. His work focuses on big picture economic effects. Thanks for being with us, Sam. So I want to start first with a very simple question about this data. The personal savings rate dropped to 3.6%. Can you help us understand exactly what that means? Is that the average American is only putting 3.6% of their income to savings?
Well, roughly, yes, that's right. That basically the government adds up all the total income earned, personal income earned in the economy, and subtracts all the personal spending that's done, and then they take the difference as savings and do that as a percentage of the total income. So it is an aggregate. It's adding up all the income and all the savings across the economy. So it's not necessarily what the average person may be doing, but it is an average across the entire economy. So it does give you a feel for how much of the current income people are making that they're not spending.
So with that number going down, should the average American be concerned about it?
Well, I think right now there's probably less concern about that, given that during and after COVID, there was a huge surge in savings. Most Americans, on average, spent less than they earned, in part because of all the stimulus that happened, and in part because you simply couldn't spend money for a while there during COVID. So what we're doing is we're basically seeing kind of the other side of the huge surge in saving that happened after COVID, and a lot of people still have more savings in their bank accounts or their investment accounts or even their homes relative to what they would have been otherwise. So I think on average, people still have a lot of savings accumulated. They're just not saving as much of their income now as they had previously. So I don't think it's really a worry right now because the overall level of savings that people have on average is relatively high.
That might explain my next question here, because Wells Fargo economists say it could be part of a long-term trend that Americans consistently save less in the aftermath of recessions, with the exception of the Great Depression. So is that part of why that we see people saving less, because they've already saved up so much and they kind of keep that in their coffers?
That's right. The savings rate itself is very cyclical. So it'll go up and down depending on where you are in the economic cycle. And so during recessions and sometimes just after, you'll see the savings rate go up. And then afterwards, you'll see it come back down again. And so it's really kind of the longer term average that matters rather than what the number looks like on a particular day or a particular month. And so I think given that we had a lot of savings going on over the last, say, 4 or 5 years, the current reading is much less of a concern. And you've also got the fact that housing prices are up. So anyone who owns a home is seeing the value of their home rise, and the stock market is up. So anything to do with 401ks and investments has also increased people's savings overall over the last year or two, certainly. So if you're seeing the value of the assets you might own rise, and you're not taking on a lot of new debt, then the amount of savings that you have access to has increased, even if the percentage of your paycheck maybe that you're saving hasn't gone up. I think those two things together kind of help explain why there's a lot of savings around, even though the current savings rate is on the low end.
So let's talk about folks out there. We know there are so many people who live paycheck to paycheck. We know it just takes one big life emergency that can drain somebody's savings and then some. Are you worried at all that this low saving trend that people aren't putting aside as much as they used to might hurt those people or push people further into poverty should they feel one of those life events?
Well, yeah, no, you're right that, what we're looking at are kind of the average across the whole economy, and there'll be a lot of variation in terms of, different types of people and different income levels, and whether they're saving enough or not. And so I think there's still, a lot of kind of disparities in wealth and in income that drive that risk that if somebody loses their job or has an unexpected expense, that they're still going to be, might struggle to meet it. That's always the case to some degree. I think it's probably a little bit less now just because more people have jobs and wages are rising. So I think the real kind of tailwind there for the economy is that there are more jobs and that people who have jobs are getting raises. And that's kind of the best insurance, I guess, against something like that that people can have over and above money that they've put aside, in savings. So I think there's a combination of the strong economy allowing people to hold on to their jobs and some of the leftover savings and things that have came after COVID that should help reduce the number of people who are exposed to that kind of risk. But that'll always be a concern, that there's always going to be a certain number of people who are going to run into those things that happen in life.
And hopefully they aren't feeling too many dramatic effects of inflation. So really quickly, we have 30 seconds left. For people who feel that continuous stress of not having enough in savings, are there any ways they can catch up easily? The biggest thing, you can do is try to take advantage of anything that you've got from your employer for 401ks and things where they might match your contributions, particularly if you're over 50. You can often get additional contributions from your employer towards your employer-sponsored accounts and things like that. So any of that is kind of free money in sense of a benefit from your employer. And otherwise, look for ways to save and also to invest so that you can grow the assets that you do have to kind of take some of that pressure off of taking more out of your paycheck. All right, Sam Burns, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate your help.